Good evening and welcome to the study session of the City Council of the City of Moreno Valley. We receive a separate stipend for CSD business if any CSD business is conducted at this meeting. Thank you all so much for joining us at home, for tuning in. I hope you have a cup of a warm beverage, one of your favorites, as we go over some exciting information and provide some updates on some of the departments here in the city of Moreno Valley. So thank you again for tuning in. And at this time, we will go ahead and move into calling the meeting to order officially at 6 p.m. on March 11, 2025. Would any of my colleagues like to lead us in the pledge? Councilmember Gonzalez will lead us in the pledge today.
Hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember. And no invocation this evening, as this is a study session. Next up, Madam Clerk, I'll turn it over to you for a roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Bernard is going to be a little bit late. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Delgado.
Here, ma'am.
Pro Tem Baca Santa Cruz.
Here.
And Mayor Cabrera.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, staff introductions, please.
Patty Rodriguez, City Clerk.
Paul Bradvica, Deputy City Clerk.
Stephen Quintanilla, City Attorney.
Dina Hill, Chief Financial Officer.
Melissa Walker, Director of Public Works.
Jeremy Bubnick, Director of Parks and Community Services.
Robert Cardenas, Director of Human Resources.
Keith Gimmel, Acting Economic Development and Housing Director.
Sarah Mack, Chief of Police.
Thank you very much, staff. Next, item E, public comments on matters on the agenda only. Pursuant to the Brown Act, public comments shall be limited to only those items that are listed on the study session agenda. Each person shall be allowed a total of 3 minutes to comment on each item on the study session agenda. The city now offers language translation services through a free app called Wordly. This app automatically translates a variety of languages into English and vice versa. To use this service, please scan the QR code at the speaker's sign-up table. For the visually impaired, please use your earphones or earbuds to listen to the verbal translation. If you do not have any such listening devices, please let the city clerk know that you need to borrow one for this meeting. We will gladly do so. La ciudad ahora ofrece servicios de traducción de idiomas a través de una aplicación gratuita llamada Wordly. Si gustan usar ese servicio, avísenle a la secretaria y entregue una tarjeta para hablar. Para usar la traducción, escanee el código QR que está en la mesa junto a la puerta. Finally, in order to preserve the meeting decorum, council and staff will not respond during public comment. Next is item F, business. The first item the council will be discussing is an item presented by our newly appointed CFO, Dina Hield, who will introduce the departments for item F1.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. The item before you this evening is a department overview for 5 of the city departments. Those city departments not listed on the agenda this evening will be presented at a subsequent study session in the near future. For tonight, each department's overview will be led by the respective department director. Our first department overview will be presented by our city clerk, Patty Rodriguez.
Thank you. So here before you, let me see. We have both of the screens show up, not my face up there. Please. Anyhow, so the city clerk is responsible for administering the democratic process, ensuring transparency, and maintaining official city records. Key responsibilities include the overseeing of the elections, ensuring the compliance with legal requirements, managing public access to city records, preparing agendas and maintaining city records, filing public notices and processing claims against the city, coordinating and administering city records, documents, and public files, maintaining city municipal codes, and serving as the official custodian of the city seal, acting as the elections official and filing officer for the California Fair Political Practices Commission's requirement. Also, as collaborating with the Riverside County Registrar of Voters to ensure accurate ballot information. The mission for the City Clerk Department is to provide quality customer service, ensuring transparency in legal processes, including city elections, council, and commission meetings, maintaining accurate legislative history of city council proceedings, facilitating public access to city information, and promoting voter registration and participation through nonpartisan outreach efforts. The purpose and the summary is, again, for the city clerk's office is to provide legislative support, elections administration, records management, and professional support. And then these are some of our department goals. Read that far. So our department goals are ensure the election process are conducted in professional, neutral, and transparent manner, provide the highest quality of customer service as outlined in the customer care guidelines, continue to work with technology services to ensure that all city records are stored and maintained for transparency in order to expedite internal and external requests for records and information, implement the automated Laserfish public records program, review the city records retention schedule and amend as needed, and then add two modules to NetFile, which are the ethics training and the boards and commissions. And then a few of your council goals here are, and these are your goals, are to promote diversity and preserve the city's revenue base, improve governmental relationships, enhance community and safety, improve the community's image, improve public infrastructure, and create a positive environment. And then a few of the strategic plan active objectives are provide highest quality of customer service as outlined in customer care guidelines. Again, ensure the election processes are conducted in a professional, neutral, and transparent manner. The Summer at City Hall program, Mayor's Apprenticeship Program promoting employment development. And future objectives are to continue to collaborate with technology services to ensure that all city records are stored and maintained transparently in order to expedite internal and external processes and requests. Review, again, the city's record retention schedule and amend as needed. Implement the public records request and customer relations management into Laserfish. Provide records management citywide training. Provide the California Public Records Request citywide training as well. Provide new eScribe updates, citywide training as well, and then implement the implementation of a vault integration into Laserfish and the retention. And a few accomplished objectives already, again, ensured the election processes conducted in a professional, neutral, transparent manner, provided the highest quality of customer service as outlined in customer care guidelines, implemented the automated eScribe agenda system and provided citywide training, implemented the fully automated administration portal and a 24-hour access to NetFile support, and implemented the Laserfish process for all contracts, historical, and other city documents. And then here is our org chart. So my title is the manager of the Office of Mayor and City Council, City Clerk. Two divisions that are overseen, which is the City Clerk and the Council. Under the City Clerk, you'll have the Senior Deputy City Clerk, Deputy City Clerk, Administrative Assistant, and then under the Mayor and Council Office, you'll have the Executive Assistant to the Mayor and City Council. Then we have one Management Assistant, followed by 2 Admin Assistants and 2 Community Ambassadors. And some of the measurements here. So a few items that were accomplished in 2023, 2024 are listed here before you, and then as well as estimated fiscal year 24, 25, as well as projected 25 and 26. That pretty much concludes all of the City Clerk's department.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Appreciate the report and the information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Next up, I will present the Financial and Management Services Department overview. Wait for it to queue up. Go ahead and bring up number 2. Okay, there we go. They're bringing it up. All right, the Financial and Management Services Department is comprised of 6 divisions and manages the city's finances, safeguards its assets, and applies sound internal controls while providing meaningful financial reporting. A few of the department's objectives listed on this page at the bottom there that I'll point out are: we assist all departments, we maintain a balanced budget, and we lead internal and external audits. The FMS department is organized as shown with the org chart shown here, with 55 and a half full-time employees and 1 part-time employee. What is difficult to see here is we do have 6 divisions. I'm going to go over each division, and those are financial resources, financial operations, purchasing and sustainability, special districts, payroll, and technology services. The first division I will highlight is financial resources. The annual budget for this division is stated as $877,240 and is staffed with 4 full-time employees. This division produces operating budget, the CIP budget on a biannual basis, including quarterly budget reports and adjustments. This division also leads the activity for our successor agency to the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Moreno Valley. As this city is responsible for winding down the affairs of the former RDA, including disposing of all of its assets, making debt service payments, and performing other obligations owned for enforceable obligation. Other programs related that this division handle is they lead the commercial cannabis, the Hire Moval Grad and Hire Moval Vet, along with the city's homeless and nonprofit initiatives are supported by this division. Something to note back on financial resources is this division has spearheaded the balancing of the budget for 12 consecutive years. Moving on to financial operations, this division has a budget of $3.7 million and is currently staffed by and supported by 16 full-time employees. This division on a daily basis processes financial transactions related to accounts payable, accounts receivable, including the cashier functions throughout the city, and capital asset management, which includes the transactions related to the city's infrastructure, which holds a portfolio of assets valued just over $1 billion here in the city of Moreno Valley. The Financial Operations Division leads or coordinates all audits and financial reports, such as the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, the Popular Annual Financial Report, the Annual Street Report, Single Audit Report, monthly payment registers, and the quarterly investment reports, to just name a few. Next up is Purchasing and Sustainability. This division has a budget of $1.4 million, has 9 full-time staff, and 1 part-time staff. On the purchasing side of this division, we lead purchase orders, contracts, the request for proposals, otherwise known as the RFP process, the CalCard program, and daily processing of inbound and outbound daily mail. On the sustainability side of this division, we manage citywide collection of trash and manage the recycling program for commercial and residential customers, including participating in 11 community events. The Special Districts Division has a budget of $682,000, has 5 full-time staff members, and this division serves as the administrator of special financing districts, which are listed here on the slide, which have financed the public infrastructure or funds the services above and beyond what the general fund provides. This includes initiating the annexations and leading the financial processes to ensure all funding is collected related to these enhanced services. I think every employee's favorite division is this one, and this is the payroll division. We have a budget of $522,000, staffed by 3.5 full-time equivalent positions. The payroll division processes payroll on a bi-weekly basis, including the issuance of employee paychecks, which of course accounts for wages paid and also includes the deduction for benefits and taxes. This division is responsible for filing quarterly tax returns, manages CalPERS wage reporting, and issues our annual W-2 wage statements. Technology Services Department's budget is a little over $7.7 million, has 18 full-time staff members. The Technology Services Division's annual measurements are listed there. This division ensures the continued viability and sustainability of citywide technology assets, including hardware, software, network, telecommunications, and a variety of software applications in support of citywide operations. This division also provides support for over 700 cameras currently deployed and active in our citywide camera system. In conclusion, the FMS department continues to be an award-winning recipient across divisions, receiving recognition from outside agencies such as MESAC, CAPO, the California Society Municipal Finance Officers Association, and Government Finance Officers Association for both budget and financial reporting. That concludes my summary of the Financial and Management Services Department.
Thank you very much.
Next is the Human Resources Department that will be presented by Robert Cardenas, our Human Resources Director.
I'll wait for it to queue up. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, and staff. As Dina mentioned, my name is Robert Cardenas. I serve as the Human Resources Director for the City of Moreno Valley. I'm very excited tonight to provide an overview of the city's Human Resources Department. Now, as you know, there have been a lot of changes in the Human Resources Department over the last year or so, and that's for good reason. I was hired in October of 2023 to rebuild the department. Now, I immediately began rebuilding the process based on concepts I drafted in a work titled Building, Nurturing, and Maintaining the Workforce of the Future. Now, I've presented these concepts at conferences. I've also implemented these concepts with 2 other cities, and I'm very pleased to put them into action at the City of Moreno Valley. Now, HR is an internal service, so with the exception of the recruitment process, most of our customers are internal. So I am pleased to showcase what we do for the city. Now, for the record, we have 12.5 FTE that assist in this effort at the cost of $1.54 million. Now, I will start my brief presentation with our HR department's mission statement, which in part states, from the moment you get hired to the moment you retire, human resources staff are by your side. Now, as cliche as that may sound, I did separate the HR department into 2 areas, into 2 concepts, and that is what we do and how we do it. Now, for what we do, it's very basic. It's basic for most organizations, and I've broken it up into 4 pillars. And that first pillar would be that of benefits. Now, we all know about benefits just like we know about payroll. And as with most organizations, that includes health, dental, vision insurance, et cetera. We've also broken it down into the second pillar, which is recruitments, which is the ability for an organization to find the right talent to do the right job with the perfect blend of technical skill and organizational fit. And that's a science in and of itself. Now, the next component of Moreno Valley's HR department is risk. Now, that's risk management. In the risk management role, we identify and mitigate potential risks that may impact city operations, and more importantly, we are skilled at transferring that risk to other instruments such as insurance policies. We also handle the city's workers' comp claims and liability claims in conjunction with the city attorney's office. In addition to purchasing insurance, we also run a safety committee to ensure that that our operations are safe. And we do that with 3 staff members. One of the most important pieces of human resources is our employee development, and I'll touch on that just a little bit. Some of the programs that we run through our human resources department include our mentorship program, our leadership training, performance management training, and employee wellness seminars, amongst others. And I could probably spend a whole hour talking about the things we do for our employees. So the next piece is the how we do it. In addition to the what we do is the how we do it. And we do this through the implementation of an employee growth cycle. And that's how we develop our employees to provide the services that are vital to the operations of our organization. Now that cycle is composed of 5 parts. The first part is when we have a new employee, we hire an employee with, as I mentioned before, a blend of technical skill and organizational fit. Now that's important because we need to know what the job is ahead. And oftentimes what we do is we look at employees who understand the vision of the city. That's based on council objectives. So we look at those objectives, we apply it to the department, and then we apply it to the recruitment so that we're hiring the right person to do the right job. We need them to understand their mission. By doing that, that also starts to increase employee retention because they know from the beginning what their job is. So once we hire that right employee through the recruitment and selection process, we also manage their performance. We manage their performance through an evaluation process. And then through that evaluation process, we know where to train them. And that's a strategic approach of training and developing the employee. Once we train and develop the employee, we assist in transferring that knowledge to the employees that are below them and above them. That's the job knowledge transfer. And then with that employee, we repeat the cycle for the next employee. So that starts to build a workforce culture. So let's see what that looks like. So when we look at the numbers here and some numbers that we provide in by way of example, we see that Gen Z now makes up 22.5% of the city's workforce. And we know that Gen Zs are digital natives and prefer a digital interface when working and communicating. Therefore, for our external customers, those who are interested in working for the city, we introduced technology recently such as Spark Hire, which is our video interviewing, to assist in this effort. And so that speaks to that demographic. For our internal customers, we work with our IT department to modernize our internal file sharing intranet dubbed Employee Connect. And so looking at the numbers, HR, we now work with the departments to apply a strategic approach to how we share information and how we work with our external customers. And that's just one small example. I'd like to add and end with a term borrowed from the 1960s, and it was popularized by the Kennedy administration. But it's still relevant today, and it's a rising tide lifts all boats. Right? This is especially true when developing the city's workforce culture. We know that everyone benefits from a positive workforce culture. Internally, the employees benefit, and externally, the residents benefit from the excellent services they receive from the high-caliber employees we attract to work for the city. To this end, HR is working closely with the city manager's office to develop the city's positive workforce culture. This concludes my report. I'm available to answer questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cardenas.
Welcome.
Thank you, Robert. Next on the agenda is Parks and Community Services, and I'd like to introduce Jeremy Bupnick, our Parks and Community Services Director.
Thank you, Dina. Robert mentioned high-quality, capable employees. I'm one of those, by the way. Just, why are they laughing? I don't know. That's why I have to keep saying it, I guess. This is our crew. This is about 70% of our staff in that photo you're seeing. And I would like to say that we are the best and most fun department. Quality of life is key for cities, and we are all about making your life better. So today I'm going to give a department overview. We have 4 divisions, so I will be going into a little more detail on those divisions and how they're funded and what they do, and then give an overview of our parks and some of our major projects that we have going on right now. So first of all, what is the Parks and Community Services Department? The Parks and Community Services consists of 4 divisions, as I mentioned, that develop, build, and maintain parks, trails, and recreational facilities in a safe and aesthetically pleasing manner. They maintain recreational open space, provide a wide range of programs for the community, including athletic leagues, recreation classes, after-school programs, teen and senior activities, adaptive programs, library services, and literacy programs. And we also schedule use of facilities, plan, organize, and promote a wide range of community events. And then we also enforce park rules, regulations, and promote safe use of park facilities. We are funded primarily through property taxes. So these are different community facility districts that our funding comes from. Community Service District Zone A. That's our largest funding source. And then that brings in about 12.9 million. We also have Community Facility District Number 1. We budget about 2.8 million in funds from that. And then CFD 2021-01, that's a new community facility district. So that we don't generate a lot of revenue from that one yet, but new homes coming in will contribute to that fund. So we have a budget of about $525,500 in revenue there. And then, as I mentioned, as new homes and developments come into the city, they are annexed into these community facility districts and provide funding through their property taxes. And then, of course, we have grant funding. We have about $13 million a year in grant funds to support our department. I know there's no way you can read that, but we have a large department of great employees. How about that? Again, this shows our 4 divisions. I won't bore you by reading our goals and objectives, but again, our focus is quality of life and providing fun activities and safe open space for the community. So our first division is Administration and Financial Services. Our department's large enough where we have a division just to manage all of our funding sources and grant funding. Again, they manage all fiscal oversight for the department. We have an annual operating budget of about $31 million and then a capital improvement budget of over $20 million. So there's a lot to keep track of, and they do a wonderful job. Also, they are the point person people for us for grants. They assist in application and then receiving and managing grants if we're successful. So as I mentioned, we have $13 million in annual grants now, and they manage those funds as well as new opportunities. Boards and committees and commissions, they provide support for all of Parks and Community Services and Trails. Parks, Community Services, and Community Services boards and commissions. We have the Parks, Community Services and Trails Commission, Library Commission, Arts Commission, the Senior Center Advisory Board, and the City School District State Joint Task Force. We also have some other committees, but these are the ones that they provide support for. Also out of that division is managed our Keep Lake Jackson, sorry, that's my previous city, by the way, so, sorry. They manage our Keep Movile Beautify Movile Parks and Trails and Roads. So they not only manage our 3 Community Day of Service events, but also seek out sponsorships and adoption of parks, trails, and roads program. So we have 36 park sites and 40 trails and 105 road segments where there's opportunity for adoption. They also do our outreach and marketing. They work really closely with our media department to market our programs. And they also do a lot of community outreach because we do a lot of partnerships. We're always looking for ways to improve programming, and we do that a lot through partnerships. And then also sponsorships. As I mentioned, we have a number of special events, and we are always seeking sponsorships to help make those events even better. Also, under this division, we oversee our library operations and administration. We currently have 3 branch libraries, soon to have a 4th. And so we manage the contract with library services, systems and services for management of those library services. The next division, I didn't tell you that this division budget is about $17.2 million, and we have 10 full-time staff. The next division is our community services division. They have a budget of about $4.3 million. They have 19 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff, career positions. And community services is basically all of our recreation programs, so all of our fun stuff. They oversee all general recreation, camps, the teen spot, moving through Moval, contract classes, the community demonstration garden, and also events and trips. And then they also oversee, as far as our commissions, boards, and committees, they oversee the ELC, which is Emerging Leadership Council. They also oversee the Senior Center and the Senior Citizen Advisory Board. And they also oversee our Child's Place after school program. And that again is grant funded. The next division, and thank you because I'm not managing very well. You can take back what I said about highly qualified and quality employee.
We already did.
It's already apparent, I believe. So Parks and Landscaping Services is our next division, and that's one of our largest. So as you can see, they have a budget of about $16 million. We have 35 full-time staff, and their purpose is to manage, maintain, and rehabilitate and improve existing parks, trails, and recreation facilities. They plan, develop, and construct new parks, trails, and recreation facilities and promote public safety in the parks and trails. So again, they provide maintenance for 43 sites, which is approximately 626 acres, 32.93 acres of landscaping along 3.6 miles of the Juan Batista Trail and 11.68 miles of multi-use trails. And they administer maintenance for approximately 224 acres of parkways, medians, open space, and flood channels and water quality basins. So if you see city landscaping in the city, it's provided by this department. They also oversee contract maintenance for landscaping at the Senior Center, the Conference and Recreation Center, the main library, City Hall, the Public Safety Building, the City Annex, Animal Shelter, fire stations, utility substations, utility field office. You get the picture. Anything landscaping they're overseeing. Also, they oversee the maintenance of the Cottonwood Golf Center. In addition, they also administer and plan a lot of park improvement projects. And right now we have a number of large projects. It's a pretty exciting time for our department. We've got, we're building a pump track, which is, actually the name of it is the Flight Deck Bike Park at Morrison Park. That's under construction now. They're moving a lot of dirt out there, and that's on the southwest corner of Morrison Park. We hope to have that open by the end of this year. Also, we are getting ready to begin construction on the Boneyard Dog Park at Gateway Park. That we are hoping to have completed by September. And then we're also in the midst of the Senior Center expansion, which is a $4.5 million project that will expand classroom space at the Senior Center, and we are hoping to have that done towards the end of the year, beginning of 2026. And then also we have the new Lakeshore Village Branch Library that is currently in planning stage and will be beginning construction soon. And that is at the Lakeshore Village Shopping Center in District 2. So that'll be our 4th library branch, so we're excited about that. And then, of course, we are continuing with the historic $6 million investment in parks, the park rehab and refurbishment program. We are still working through those projects, but are making a lot of progress and should have most of those projects wrapped up by the end of this calendar year as well. Okay. The final division is the Special Events and Facilities Division. They have a $2.1 million budget, and they have 6 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff. They oversee all of our special events, 12 large events throughout the year, but also they do a number of other events, small events. They do all the grand openings for parks and dedications and anywhere else as needed. They handle all the facility rentals from our facilities and also our sport fields rentals. They also all of our sports programs, so Pee Wee youth and adult sports programs are coordinated out of this division, and then also they help me oversee the public art program. So that's the 4 divisions. We have 36 parks right now, and we are about to get our 37th. We will be dedicating a new park likely in May of this year, the Bella Serra Park. So we're excited about that. And so that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Director Bubnick. Yeah, I think you spoke on the first part there about qualifications, but I think I can speak for everyone when you say that you're the most fun department. You know, you have all the events and everything, so definitely a lot of fun there. Thank you so much, Director.
Thank you. I definitely learned not to call my shot at the beginning of the presentation. I won't do that again.
Stay humble.
All right. Our final department to present this evening will be led by Stephen Quintanilla, our city attorney.
Well, Jeremy may oversee the most fun department, and I claim to oversee the exact opposite. But I will try to keep it fun, so I thought, let's talk about litigation. Oh, here, I got this thing here. So why bore you with this stuff? Well, a lot of people don't think this stuff is boring based on the Public Records Act requests we get. Why litigation? You know, why is the public interested in litigation? Well, litigation says, depending on the outcome, it says a lot about the integrity of our public decision-making process. You know, because basically that's what we're challenged for in court, is how we make decisions. And equally important is tax dollars. We often get public records requests asking for our invoices about how much was spent on this litigation or that litigation. And that's legitimate questions. But, you know, I know Mr. Cardenas broke down his presentation by what we do and how we do it. I break it down by what you see and what you don't see. And I think this is very important because on the question of taxpayer dollars, it's very important to know what the public doesn't see, and it's only because they don't ask. So to get to, you know, in order to explain you know, how we fund litigation, it's important to understand what the most common types of litigation we're faced with. And basically, they're broken down to 4 different categories. There's torts, personnel litigation, mandate actions, and code compliance actions. Torts are basically your trip and fall cases or run over a pothole and your fender falls off. You know, so it's damage to real property, personal property. It could be bodily injury, it could be death, it could be breach of contract actions, it could be disputes over refunds of taxes and assessments, any claim for financial damages, and any actions that are filed against public employees, which we don't see a lot of, fortunately. Torts, when we're dealing with torts, again, these are the injury cases. We are governed by state law called the Government Tort Claims Act, and it sets forth the procedures with respect to how people file lawsuits against the city. And I'm not here to explain how you do that, but it's important to understand that process in order to figure out, why these various tort actions are paid for by our insurance companies. So we do have an insurance policy, basically. It's with this agency called the Public Entity Risk Management Authority. We know it as PIRMA. It consists of 21 cities and members and 12 other public entities. So this group of public agencies have got together to provide pooled insurance. So like any insurance policy, the city has a retention. A retention is basically a deductible. And so we are responsible financially for these tort cases up to the retention amount. What happens when we reach that retention amount? The members jointly fund. This is what the whole pooled insurance is all about. They fund the losses beyond that retention amount up to a certain amount. Unfortunately, we never reached that amount as far as I know. In order to file a lawsuit against the city, again, I'm not educating everybody how to do this, but there's a claim form that has to be filed at the city clerk's office. We submit that form to PIRMA, our insurance coverage, or insurance agency, basically. The third step is that PIRMA makes a determination as to whether or not that particular action, tort action, is covered. If it's not covered, they return the claim back to the city. The city, we can either reject the claim or we wait for 45 days and the claim expires. At the time that the claim is rejected, there's statute of limitations kicks in for filing a lawsuit, and that varies depending on what the action is. The city selects its legal counsel. It's not necessarily the city attorney's office. A lot of times it's sent out to special counsel. And the city covers the cost of litigation and settlement. Again, this is with these tort cases that are not covered by PIRMA, but there's other ways of having that covered. If it is covered, then PIRMA takes over. Goes through the same process, waits for 45 days so it can reject the claim. They select legal counsel. They oversee the litigation and settlement. However, we don't give up the authority to decide for ourselves. When I say for ourselves, the city council, to decide whether or not to accept a claim or settle a claim or reject it. And again, we pay up to that retention amount, and anything above that is covered by the members. With personnel litigation, we deal with what I call PIRMA's fraternal twin sister. It's IRMA. It's the Employment Risk Management Authority. Same process occurs there. There's a retention amount. We're obligated to pay up to that retention amount. Everything above that is covered by the members up to a certain point, which we haven't reached. The most common type of lawsuits that are filed against the city are what are known as mandate actions, and this is when a judge comes and reviews our decisions. There's three kinds of actions that are challenged under this mandate proceeding. Includes legislative actions, adjudicatory actions, and ministerial actions. Legislative actions are basically when the city council decides to formulate a rule, a general rule that applies to similar situations. The most common type of legislative action the council takes are basically, adopting the general plan, adopting a new zoning ordinance or a new business regulation. And for some reason, the courts have determined that when we award a contract or reject a contract, it's determined to be a legislative action. I don't know why, but it's a good thing for the city in the context of litigation. With legislative actions, generally, there's a 90-day statute of limitations, which means that they have to, if they're going to file a lawsuit against the city, they have to do it within 90 days. They file, instead of what we are normally used to, called a civil complaint, they file what is called a petition for writ of mandate, which is basically a civil complaint. The city selects the legal counsel, and the city controls the litigation and settlement. And I should point out that 100% of the cost of these challenges to legislative actions, if they are associated with a particular project, like a general plan amendment or a zone change, 100% of the cost is covered by the applicant. Even though my office needs to appear in the context of these litigation cases, because it is actually the city that's being sued, and the applicant's named as what is, we call the real party in interest. But their obligation is to fund and to reimburse the city for all costs associated with the litigation. So when we respond to a request for invoices, invoices that show how much the city has incurred in costs of litigation, that's what we provide. What we don't provide is, unless they ask, is copies of the indemnification agreements that show that the developer has covered the entire cost of the litigation associated with some of these legislative challenges. I just want to point out, this is kind of a side issue. There's another way that another way to challenge legislative action, so that's through the referendum process. And so if anybody's been curious about why is there a 30-day period before an ordinance takes effect after the second reading, that is called the referendum period. That is a time period in which any member of the public can go out and circulate a petition. If they get the requisite number of signatures, they can file it with the city council. City council can either change their mind and reverse their decision, modify their decision, or place it on the ballot. If the city council doesn't do what the petitioners want, the item will go on the ballot as a referendum. And that referendum is generally going to be asking the voters to repeal or rescind the city council action that's being challenged. So that's an alternative way of challenging a legislative action. Mandate actions also include adjudicatory acts. This is when we're actually, the city council's applying a general rule to a specific set of facts. This typically comes up when the council makes a CEQA determination, as to, for example, certifying an EIR or approving a mitigated negative declaration or approving an exemption to CEQA. Those are considered to be adjudicatory because you're applying some general rules of CEQA to a particular set of facts. It also includes, adjudicatory actions also include decisions to approve or deny a development project, and basically anything that's subject to a public hearing or an appeal hearing before the city council is considered to be an adjudicatory action. Their statute of limitations vary in CEQA. It ranges between 30 days and 6 months, depending on the document that's certified or approved by the city council. And again, in order to challenge it in court, the petitioners or the plaintiffs have to file what is known as a petition for writ of mandate. Typical cases include basically development projects. And again, with all adjudicatory actions, total cost of the litigation is covered by the applicant/developer. They're required to provide the indemnification as a condition of approval of their projects. So when we see stories in the paper about how much a particular city spent on litigation, I can assure you that city was likely reimbursed for 100% of the costs of that litigation, including any settlement. Sidebar, that involves no alcohol here, but I think it's important I don't know how important it is for everyone to know, but the burden is always on the petitioner or the plaintiff to prove its case. And it's a high bar to meet because they have to prove to a judge based on an administrative record, it just consists of paper. There's no discovery, there's no depositions, there's no witnesses. It's all based on paper, even to the point where we take hearings and we transcribe those hearings into transcripts. And the test that is applied by the judge is what is known as substantial evidence test, which is very deferential to the city council's decision-making authority. The judge is not in a position to second-guess the wisdom of the decision, whether or not it's good policy or bad policy. It's all based on whether or not there's evidence, substantial evidence, not hardcore evidence, just a lot of evidence that supports the city council's decision. And that's why you hear coming from the well, from staff and the city attorney's office, whenever we start hearing, hearing someone talking about rejecting a project, it's all about findings, findings, and findings. You cannot reject a project in an adjudicatory context just because you don't like something. It's all based on findings of fact. Mandate actions also include challenges to ministerial actions. A ministerial action is an act that's specifically required by a law or a rule, either state rule or law or a local rule or law, that involves no discretion. Basically, black and white, yes and no. If it exceeds the height or doesn't exceed the height. So it involved, the examples include when we issue building permits, if somebody submits a complete application and we say, oh, no, it's not complete. No, it's either complete or it's not complete. Basically, they're decisions that are made over the counter by staff. And sometimes ministerial actions include challenges when somebody alleges that we didn't do something within a required time frame. That's important to point out because a lot of the laws that we're seeing come out of Sacramento now include shot clocks, which require the city to take action or staff to take action within a certain time frame. Otherwise, that whatever's before them is deemed approved. Statute of limitations for ministerial actions can range between 30 days to 3 years, depending on the action that's being challenged. And again, in order to challenge a ministerial action, is a petition for writ of mandate. City controls the litigation. And the city, in some cases, when we're deemed to be the prevailing party, we're entitled to recover costs of litigation. That's becoming a lot more rare now, because what we're seeing come out of the courts right now is the courts are awarding attorney's fees to cities only if there's a determination that the lawsuit was frivolous, which is a very high bar. Because in a lot of cases, when these lawsuits come in, they have all these causes of action. They can lose on one. I mean, if they win just one of them, even though they lose the entire case, it precludes us from getting attorney's fees. But I should point out again, if this ministerial action is associated with a particular project, we get 100% of the costs covered by the applicant. We also have built into some of our ministerial permits, grading permits and building permits, an indemnification provision that requires that if anybody challenges us for issuing that permit, you, applicant, have to cover our costs. The burden of proof is on the petitioner here, and it's a very, very tough burden of proof to meet. Because they have to prove that there was absolutely no evidentiary support for the decision, that we totally abused our discretion, we acted arbitrarily, and we failed to follow the procedures required by law. Typically, cities prevail in these ministerial challenges because generally staff follows the rules. And finally, the other most common type of case that comes up are related to code compliance or code enforcement. And basically, if the city prevails, we are entitled to recover our attorney's fees, court costs, fines, and abatement costs. And the way we recover them is that we record special assessments against the real property where the code issue occurred. And the reason one of the issues that comes up often when we record these special assessments is the property owner, the landlord, will claim, oh, I didn't do it. It was my tenant who was shooting off the fireworks. Well, it came off of that property, and so we record that special assessment against that property. And the good thing about these special assessments, because lots of cities record liens, when you record a special assessment to recover code compliance costs, it runs with that property, it's collected with the property taxes, it takes priority over mortgages, any other liens except property taxes. And they're subject to foreclosure. And I like to proudly say that with code compliance actions, we almost never lose. And that's because during the code compliance process, we provide a lot of due process, a lot more due process than the courts even require. And so I'm proud to say that here in the city of Moreno Valley, we are very good with respect to providing more due process than anybody's entitled to according to the courts. So we also include these, I call them my belts and suspenders approach here. In all of our city contracts, we have indemnification provisions. We have insurance coverage requirements. We require the posting of bonds. We have hold harmless provisions that require whoever the contractee is, the other party is, to hold us harmless in the event somebody gets harmed, because of something that we contracted with them to do. They are also required to provide us with releases and waivers of liability and pay attorney's fees in the event that we're challenged for approving a particular contract. So in a nutshell, the most common cases we have are the tort actions. We have insurance coverage. We only pay up to the retention amount. Everything above that's paid by the members of PERMA or IRMA, and then that also includes personnel litigation. In all of our land use cases, if they're related to projects, and it's very rarely, there's one exception, with our general plan, all of our land use cases are associated with development projects. We have the indemnification agreements. We incur zero costs with litigation. And finally, the code compliance costs. We record the special assessments for the purposes of recovering all of our costs. So there you go. If you have any questions, I'm here to attempt to answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. City Attorney, for that City Law 101 course. Very, very informational and educational. And at this time, before we move into public comment, I will bring it up to the dais to see if there's any council questions or discussion. And I do have a couple of questions, and I see some hands going up already. First one, I'll go to Dr. Cardenas. It was kind of alluded to in the presentation and even within the other presentations, but, or maybe even for Dina. This might be a better one for Dina. In the past, we've had discussions here at the dais about the number of employees that we have compared or relative to other cities of similar population size, for example. Could you speak to that a little bit? You mentioned the 12 straight years of balanced budget, but could you just briefly, big picture, talk about how the city of Moreno Valley compares in terms of number of employees that are running the ship here compared to some of these other cities? I know we've had comparisons before.
Yes, absolutely. So in comparison to other cities, we definitely are at a less FTE than our peers. Due to the investment that we have put into the technology behind making the magic happen, that's where we've seen the success. So that is going to be a part of our strategic plan going forward for the next 2-year budget that you'll see in the future month.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the public was aware of that not only is staff in the city running an efficient ship financially with our budget, but also we're working with less employees compared to surrounding cities, and you guys are doing an amazing job. So I wanted to make sure to highlight that. And then a couple of questions for our fund department, Mr. Jeremy Bubnick. And I said stay humble because that's one of my sayings. I always try to remind myself, stay humble, stay humble, stay humble, right? That's one of my sayings. I wasn't telling you to stay humble. It's just something I always tell myself. Could you talk a little bit more about some of the programs? One of them is Moving Through Moval. Some residents may not even be aware that that's something that we have. Could you just briefly talk a little bit more about what that is?
Sure. Moving Through Mobile is a mobile recreation program that we have that we have a schedule. I don't know the schedule offhand, but we have a schedule where we have a couple of staff and a van that we go to certain scheduled parks after school, and we're there to provide recreation programs. So they will engage in games, they have arts and crafts, they have a number of things that are available to kids, and primarily the goal of that program is kids that are going home where they have 2 working parents and may be going home to an empty house. We're providing some some positive outdoor activity for them.
Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, I want to make sure, again, for those watching at home, that you all are aware that we have this. If you've maybe seen the trailer being towed by one of our city trucks, it's all wrapped, has moving through Moval on the side of it, so it's really nice. And you know, like Jeremy mentioned, they rotate around the city. And same question, Jeremy, for the teen spot and for our libraries. You know, a little bit about the programming, maybe some of the requirements to access the teen spot, and then also for the libraries, really talking about like the programming for toddlers, or even some of the workshops that they have for like robotics or computers and things like that.
Sure. Our libraries basically serve as de facto community centers, or they provide so much programming. It's amazing all of the things they do. They provide youth literacy. They provide youth and adult literacy programs. They offer children's story time. They do, as you mentioned, a lot of STEM activities, robotics, and also they also have now the new trend obviously is gaming centers. So most of our sites have a dedicated gaming area. I'll highlight the library. I'll highlight the mall branch specifically because they recently last year opened up a brand new gaming layer, and a lot of the programs that the library provides, they are very good at receiving grants. A number of grants from the state library program and others where they're able to just offer so many programs. So if people think about our libraries as the traditional library of books, that's not the way libraries are anymore. They still have the books, but they offer so much more. So I would recommend any of our citizens to go online, visit our libraries, and find out all that they have to offer, because it's pretty amazing. What was your other question? I apologize.
The teen spot?
Teen Spot, yes. We have a wonderful teen center over at the Conference and Recreation Center called the Teen Spot. We offer after-school programs there as well. We also do a lot of special events and kind of special parties and fun for them. We are in the process of receiving a new bus, basically a mini bus, through a grant program. We're working now that will allow us to do a lot of day trips and provide different opportunities for kids or teens that may not have the opportunity to go to the beach or go into the city or see some of those things. So we're excited about that. That'll be new programming coming probably next year. But the Teen Spot, again, it's a wonderful place. We have, we have gaming centers there. We have pool tables. We have another number of fun events. We also have computer stations for, again, a lot of STEM activities. But it's, probably a hidden gem that people don't know about, but we're always looking for new teens, and there's great opportunities there, and it's a fun place to kind of hang out. It's organized by the teens. Obviously, we have staff there, but we take a lot of input from the teens as far as programming.
Thank you, Jeremy. And I think you said it at the end there, those hidden gems, right, that we've had here for a while now, for years. The Teen Spot has been there for a few years. The libraries have been there for several years. But oftentimes residents may not be aware that they are here and that they're near to their neighborhood, right? And so, I just remember when I was a kid growing up in Compton, I didn't have any libraries near my house, right? And so that was kind of one of the goals of this council for the past many years, even the previous administration here, to bring these public amenities and facilities closer to home for our residents so that it's easily accessible and we have those safe spaces for them. So thank you so much for that, team. Really appreciate it. That's all the questions I have. We'll go next to Councilmember Delgado.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I don't have any questions, but I just want to say thank you guys for the presentations, first and foremost, from the city manager's office, city clerk, finance, human resources, parks and community services, city attorney. This, what we heard tonight, I know was just scratching the surface of what you guys do. It's an overview of the daily work that you guys do. So there's a lot of moving parts in this city, and I'm very proud of everybody and all your efforts in making this city a well-run, city that we live in. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next up, Councilmember Gonzalez.
I just want to say, continue to thank the various departments. I'm going through the department handbook training, and I have 2 more to go, city clerk and human resources. So I'll finish it up this Friday. And I had the city attorney today. I didn't get to do a one-on-one with city attorney, but maybe the schedule for Fridays, my Friday's off. But again, thank you, and I'll see you guys on Friday.
Thank you. Looking at District 1, District 4, see if there's any questions or comments.
I do agree. Jeremy, parks make life better, so kudos. I'm really happy that you're expending all of that money that came in and that we're getting all these projects going. I'm super excited to see the new restrooms in Adrian Mitchell and especially the CRC. So looking forward to that. And then, Robert, I do have an hour. So if you want to sit down and talk about all the things that we do for our employees, I'd be happy to sit down and hear about it.
Thank you. Are there any further comments or questions from the dais?
So I just want to thank everybody for explaining the different departments. I know to sum it up in these short presentations is a lot to do in a short amount of time. So I appreciate everyone and all the work that they do. Jeremy is very much correct. He has the fun department. That's where all my faves reside at. Every last one of my favorites is in Jeremy's department. HR is always fun. It's not my cup of tea, but it's fun. It's a different level of fun. As Steve knows, we geek out over all the legal stuff all the time. And Dina, as you know, I am getting knee deep into the financial system. So I just thank everybody, and Patty will, because you just keep everything managing. So just thank you, everybody, for your reports. I can not wait to hear more from one of my other favorite programs back there, Public Works, and all the fun things that we have coming along there and what's going on with our economic development. And Captain Mack, I have not forgot about you back there. Also, congratulations. For those of you that don't know, Captain Mack received Woman of the Year for District 5, so congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. And looks like that will conclude the council deliberation and questions. I would like to turn over to public comment now. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. We sure do. Christopher Baca.
Good evening. I think most of the stuff was answered, but I do have a criticism on the city attorney and how the last election was handled. I don't think there was the transparency that's needed for our community to know exactly what's going on. And there was a lot of questions asked and a lot of the stuff wasn't answered. We need transparency. We need to know exactly the steps that are taken by the people that are applying for or running for office and so forth. Also, the transparency as far as the 460s and any of the forms that are required are not being put up in time. If they're not received in time, maybe they can put not received or something. But all we get is brick wall, and a lot of the questions were not answered during this past election, and it just isn't fair to the community. On the other hand, a lot of the stuff that's was presented today, it'd be nice if we can have hard copies of some of that stuff. Previously, a lot of the presentations, hard copies were there for the community to have. A lot of people don't have access to printers at home. So it would be nice if we can have some of these presentations available. Thank you.
That concludes public comment, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And with that, we have no other items on the agenda other than item G, which is adjournment. And so there being no further business in this study session, we will adjourn at 7:09 p.m. Have a good night.